I have to pull up my disclosures.
We're live right now. Yeah, man. So you want to pull the disclosures up, Amar? Should we talk about those first or
yeah, let's just leave the disclosures on there until people are entering, right?
Yep.
Or
they will be. I mean, there's some, let's see, we got we're a 10-second delay. So all the cuss words that you make, Amar, I always got to delete it. So 10-second delay.
I'm sharing my screen to you. If you can share it, put it up there. So while people are logging in.
Right on. Oh, there you go. Okay, cool. Yep, there you go. Gotcha. Let me.
Hey, I just got back from Arizona. We stayed in Scottsdale, right next to Old Town Scottsdale.
What were you doing down there?
Well, my kids had a break, and we wanted to get out of the house, so we went to Arizona.
Why don't you stay in California? California is so great for everybody.
It is, but it was 80. I think it was like on Sunday it was like 80 degrees in Scottsdale, so it was nice.
Mar, we know what you were doing. You were scoping out houses. You're like, I can't afford.
Dude, I'll say this: Arizona, the houses are so big.
Yeah.
I met up with a couple of our old USA buddies, and it boggles my mind how big these houses are because that's so much stuff you have to clean. Like in my mind, I was just like, this probably take forever to clean.
And it's so much stuff you have to cool. I mean, just think about how much.
Yeah, and that alone. Do you mind putting the disclosures up so we can just have that while we're just talking? So Alan's from San Diego. I'm from San Diego.
Man, I got
whereabouts in San Diego, Alan?
And Amar, while waiting on Alan to respond, I got the door open right now because it's 71 degrees here, not a cloud in the sky. But my man Bruce up in upstate New York says 30 degrees.
Oh God, that's cold.
Oh, that's painful, Bruce. That's painful. Nancy's in the Gulf Coast. James says Amar and Josh moved to Florida. Poway.
I'm going camping, so I was lucky. Oh, Poway. I went to Mount Carmel High School there, Alan. So Poway and Mount Carmel are like rival high schools, Josh.
So that's where that's the decrepit part of town. Is that what you're saying?
Poway's nice. I used to be a firefighter for the city of Poway. That was my first job. Over off of Espola Road. Oh, cool.
That's right. I forgot about that. You're going to be a fireman or something like that.
Yeah. Until forgot the captain's name, but he basically didn't hire me and told me to go to college. So
why?
I went to engineering. All right. Hey, so
yep.
We can take the disclosures off and let's just put like our images up. And
there you
go. Before this live stream, Josh and I were talking yesterday or the day before, and we're saying, hey, Amar, what type of questions are you getting from clients? Maybe we add some what's actionable now, what are people thinking about now to our 13 wealth management concerns. And I was laughing to Josh and basically saying nobody's happy right now. People who own equities think we're in a bubble and are nervous as all heck. And people that own a lot of fixed income are mad because they're not making any interest. Because the interest rate's so low.
Yep.
And so one of the things that when I used to work for JP Morgan and American Express is we use this product called structured notes.
Yes. Yep.
And structured notes is an ability to give you exposure to it's some sort of market linked security and still provide you with some protection. And so what I think, we were just talking about investments, then we talked about qualified retirement plans. And so what I'm seeing a lot of is individuals that are retired and they're rolling over their IRA, 401ks into IRAs. They're really considering these structured notes. And so one of the things that I thought would be useful is to just do a 101 on structured notes and what they're like and what you should be aware of, where are the risk factors, and hop into that. So,
yeah, I get a lot of questions on them too, actually. People say, I got this email or I saw this guy on Facebook, lots of questions. And They're interesting products. I'm not negative on them at all. They're an interesting product that I think offers opportunity. And back in my old career as a broker, I used to sell some of these, and I think they've come a long way since then. That's for sure. All right, so Amar, now real quick, Ken. So I don't sell anything, so there's nothing here for me. Amar, can you sell these? I want to be upfront. If you can sell them, do you get commit? I mean, it's just. How do I want to say this? I don't sell anything. Amar gets paid, and I know he's a fee-based planner. Are these in your portfolio of products you can offer to people? I guess what I'm saying.
Yeah. So let's dig into that a little bit. We don't manufacture any products across the board. So we don't have our own mutual funds. We don't have our own proprietary structured notes or anything else like that. The second thing I would say is, yes, we offer structured notes through Fidelity and Schwab, but we don't buy off-the-rack structured notes. So what we're trying to do is we're trying to find tailored solutions to our clients and meet our clients' needs with customized products that fit their timeline, their liquidity needs, their risk tolerance. And so what we're going through today is a deck that I found through Axios Financial. It's a FINRA firm, and this is off the rack type products, and we don't sell those. So we would customize a product offering to our clients, and we don't make a commission on these because we charge a asset based fee.
Okay, gotcha.
So it's built into our product offering that if this is the right product, then we would look at something like this. And and really what we're trying to do is say that it's hard to take risks, right? When markets are all-time high, you may feel nervous. Like I started with, that people that own equities are nervous. People that own...
See, that Dow's down 400 points right now. So.
People that own... So people that own equities are nervous. People that own fixed income are not happy because of interest rates are low. I think the LQD or IGAB or whatever the Bloomberg aggregate bond index is actually negative for the year. So that's why we're talking about structured products here. And before Josh,
all right, gotcha. So. Let's but these are in your repertoire. That's what I want to say, because I think I think these people. Well, I don't know about these people, but I think there are some people be interested, but they want to make sure they're buying them through a guy that they trust, and that's what. I just want to make sure. All right, so I'm gonna bring this up here. You ready, Amar?
I'm gonna see. Does this come up as? Oh yeah, I'm ready.
Okay, cool. All right, hold on, let me. I'm gonna let you. All right, can you all see that? All right, Amar, you keep running. I gotta get my dogs.
Josh. All right, so we're gonna talk about structured notes. So first thing that you got to consider, there's a lot of risk with any investment that you have. With these specifically, you'll have credit risk, right? Because there's a bank or there's a financial institution that's underwriting this product, and they could file for bankruptcy. We've seen like Lehman Brothers. We've seen a lot of volatility lately with some of the hedge funds. So there is somebody underwriting this security.
Right.
There's market risk, right? Because remember, these notes are tied to a marketable security, and that market security goes up and down, and so you can have some market risk. If you have a product that has that you're looking for extra income, then there's income risk. So I'm not going to go through all of these, but basically you got to check out, the risk factors. You got to dig into the costs, the structures. What is the worst case scenario? With some of these structured notes, if it doesn't work out, you could end up owning the underlying security. And so that's something to be careful about. And I think what Josh alluded to earlier is that most of all these structured notes would default you to owning the core positions in that structured note. That's not the case with most of them now, but you got to be careful because they're still out there.
Yep.
So
you make it a little bit bigger by chance, or would that screw up the screen?
This is full screen.
Okay. All right, guys. Oh, wait, I need to look it over here. Okay, no. All right, go ahead, Mark.
Yeah.
That's good. That's good. I like it. It looks good. I was looking at a different screen. So cool.
Yeah. So this is what we were talking about, right? The investment landscape is kind of challenging right now because we got the government continuing to print money, right? So in 08 and 09, we printed a ton of money. People were upset. In 2020, we printed 4 times the amount that we printed in 08 and 09. People, got upset, and we're just continue to print money.
Mark, did you hear this? I heard this. I haven't validated, but of all the cash that's out there, 40% was printed in 2020. Of all the dollar bills that are out there, 40%. I say that. I mean, again, I haven't validated that. I haven't dived into it, but I just said, man, that's crazy.
Yeah. James put up this comment, which I agree. If you retired in the last 5 years, basically, well, actually, no. If you retired since let's say 2005, when the rate started to drop and the housing crisis happened in 07, 08. I mean, this is all a time period where it's been really challenging to be a retiree and recreating your income, right? And that's why we're talking about this as a way to allow you to take more risk but have some downside protection. So I'm not going to go into detail of this, but I wanted to draw, and I know last time I had an issue with drawing. Hopefully this time we don't have that issue. So,
all right,
Josh, you're going to have to help me out in seeing. Can you see my screen here?
Yep, absolutely.
All right. So if I draw this correctly, all right. So this is like a structure note. Think of the structure note is you're putting money into a product, and of that product, let's say if you put $100, let's say, into this product, $90 is going to a fixed income instrument, right? So you're getting some interest on this instrument. So this is like an IOU or a bond.
Yeah, well, that's pretty good. A lot better than last week. Yeah.
Yeah, and then over here, with what the company does with the remaining $10 is that they take that money and they buy options. Okay, so and most structured notes have a fixed time period that you have to hold them for. So in all of our examples, we're just going to use 5 years.
Okay.
Oops. So what this means is this bond, this $90 that the institution is underwriting, they'll pay you 2.13% yield. And I know that because I did the math to get you to $100 at the end of 5 years.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how it's protecting your principal, right? So if these options, these $10 go to zero, right? This $90 at the end of 5 years will get to $100 and you get your money back, right? So in some of these, it's important to understand that these options is what's creating the actual structured note. The bond portion, which is a majority of your money, is creating your protection or your like whatever the insurance that you're getting in this product, right? So let me go back to this. And I don't even know how to clear my drawings, so
I'm not sure how to do it. What are you trying to do?
But do you see my my other screen now there, Josh?
I see what are structured products is what I see.
Yeah. All right. So okay. So here, this is what we just, I guess, what I was trying to draw here. And too bad I can't write on this while we're doing it.
That's sweet.
But here, essentially, this is $10, 10%, and this is 90%.
Yeah.
And that's how they get you, your flexibility there. So remember, because 90% is in the traditional security, that is the credit risk, right? So we talked about credit risk before. The credit risk is that company's still going to be able to make those payments, right?
Yeah, like with Lehman Brothers, that was the issue in 2008. I mean, they I don't know what happened to people who own the structured notes. Seemed like the preferreds. I just can't recall, Marv. I remember Lehman Brothers prefers. I can't remember. Anyway, but you got to be careful. I mean, if you're getting some crappy company, fly by night company, writing you these things, and it goes kaput, you're done. That's all there is. Well, it's like any bond, though. I mean, this is the issue. Yeah, I was reading some of the guys before he came on here, some of the negative stuff on structured notes. I'm like, well, that's true of any stock or bond, by the way. If you own Lehman Brothers stock or bond, you're screwed anyhow. So it's not like it's only exclusive to this.
Yeah.
Right.
And if somebody says something negative about a structured note, it's you got to figure out if what note they had, because there's 1,000 different types of notes, right? Yep. And you can't. It's like saying
negative about an ETF or something like that. Oh, ETFs suck because this one sucks. This is just
no.
So right, that's a good one. Yeah.
So this is just showing that it's growing. It's a growing marketplace. Like in 2014 to when this deck was created in 2017, and I bet now it's even more and more.
Big time. Guarantee it's 10 times. Well, not 10 times. Yeah. Guarantee it's a lot bigger for sure.
So the main type of structured notes that we're going to go over today fall in 3 buckets, right? One is I want market participation because I want a growth-oriented structured product, but I want to limit my downside. So this is going to be like the first type that we talk about. Another one is to increase income, increase yield, right? So, if you have fixed income or you have bonds that are paying 2 or 3%, and you're like, hey, I would like to get more than 2 or 3%, and I'm willing to take on a little bit more risk to get that extra yield, then we'll talk about that. And then we're going to give you an example of like a principal protection type product, right? And these remind me, just real quick side note here, Josh, as the annuities that have equity indexes that they're pegged to, right?
Yep.
And those equity index annuities say that there's no losses, just like these do. But I think structured notes are better than those because of 2 things. There's not a variable participation rate.
Exactly.
Right? Like everything is disclosed up front. Yep. And you already know the cap rate going into it, right? Yep. So in most equity index annuities, those 2 items are flexible based off of the insurer's ability to pay.
Exactly. Based on it, it's like
So I'll take the first example if you don't mind. So this is stock market participation with limited downside protection, right? So I'm a visual person, so I'm going to draw this out here in a bit. So I think the key things to understand here is that this is a 5-year structured note. The downside protection buffer is 20%. So 0 to 20. Yeah, you're not losing any principal, right? It puts it right here. It's down 20%, no loss of principal, right? 100%. There's no losses. But once the S&P loses more than 20%, right, there is some loss of principal, right? And that is 1% for every 1% the index is down more than 20%. So I'm going to bring up my my drawing pad here.
All right, Picasso.
Let's see if this works. This is the first time, or I tried to do this last time with the options, and it was just horrible. But
a disaster, Amar, disaster.
Well, the part of the problem is maybe my pad is upside down, or I don't know.
It's fine, dude. It's fine. Just give me a hard time.
So this is let's use the x-axis as the S&P. And this is percentage return at the end of 5 years. Okay. And there's a couple key markers here that they said in the slide above. So there's 10%. There's 25%. And then there was 60%. And to get the benefit of the of this participation in capping the downside, that they also cap the upside too, which we're going to go into here. And we're going to say that this is profit. So, God, if I was doing this perfectly, this should be right around here, $10, right? Because this is 1.2 of that. Here is $30. And here's 50. All right, so it's not to scale, but we'll make do, right?
Pretty good.
And then here is our cap at 20%. Oops. Doing these things live definitely puts you on your making sure you're trying everything correctly, but I think I got that right. Yep. So essentially at 10%, there's a $12 payout. So you would be just above here. And then at 25, there's a 30% payout, $30 payout. So you'd be right here. And at 60, you're capped at $50 payout, right? So essentially, this is a line that goes like, should be going like that. Then from 0 to 20, there's no payout. And then from 20 onwards is, like a 45-degree angle line where it's $1 for dollar on the downside. So at the end of 5 years, if the S&P 500 did, well, let's just look at it. I actually brought this up earlier. So let's look at some real life examples. If you bought this structured note, February 24th, 2006, the market at the end of 5 years was up 2.36%. And so what did we get on the structured note here? You got 2.36%. You did just as good as the S&P 500, right? If we look 07 to 12, where the market was down 5.64% for that period of time, then this structured note, you didn't lose any money, right?
Minus dividends, just FYI. There's no dividends.
Yeah, minus dividends, right? This is not including, this is just on the equity return that we're looking at here. And then we look at the last 5 years, 2016 to 2021, the S&P 500 is up almost 100%. If today was an update, I'm sure we would have hit 100%. And here you're capped at your $50 per 100. Because 50% is the cap on the upside, right? So this is a way where somebody can get participation, limit their upside to have the benefit of knowing the first 20% they're not going to have any losses. Yeah. Right. And then after that is dollar for dollar. Right. So.
But still but even if the market is down 50, you're only down 30. I mean, that's what makes it. You're still losing 20%. You're still eliminating 20% of the downside, is what I'm saying.
Yeah. Yeah.
Then you're only limiting 50% of the up potentially, but you could get the entirety of the up for 5 years. That's what makes it attractive. And the second part of that is not having the dividends. One of the things I don't want to discount dividends, but let's be honest here. What's the S&P 500 yielding right now? 2%, Amar, if even that.
Yeah, just a little bit north of 2%.
Yeah. So.
The 10-year treasury is close to 1.2, I think.
No, right now it's 1.6. It's had a pretty big run.
Yeah.
But what I'm saying is that at the end of the day, for 5 years, the compounding nature of 2% dividends isn't huge. Now, for the course of your entire investing career, it is. But for 5 years, not having 2% dividend compounding over a 5-year time frame isn't the same as not having dividends compounding over a 40-year time frame. That's for sure. So. Especially if you're considering that the market could go down, then you say, okay, I'll sacrifice a 2% compounding dividend to avoid the first 20% of the down. There's some attraction to that in my opinion.
Not for everybody, but if products fill a need, right? So you got to make sure that this product fills your need. You want to take the next one?
Well, let's talk about liquidity. What's the likelihood if someone needed cash, they could get their money out? Not very. This is really money you want to not touch, right, Amar?
Exactly. So if we have the bucket strategy, this is like the last bucket that you touch.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
And again, if you're aggressive, if you're moderate or above, you're probably better owning the underlying securities than any of these. But if you're that moderate to very conservative to I want principal protection, if you're in that range, I think structured notes play have a better opportunity to play a role in your financial picture.
I'd also say more to that. Look, we're not here to sell you on this stuff. We're just here to give you my point in Amar's is too. Like, look, you got to do what you got to do. If you're cautious and you're approaching retirement, and I tell a lot of people, Amar, look at something like the Wellesley as a primary source for right now. I don't make investment recommendations, but the reason being is because it has a nice track record. It's 40% stocks, 60% bonds. The fees are quite low. The point being is we don't want to get killed in the first year or two of retirement. The sequence of return risk, I think most people recognize. But it's even more than that. It's something emotionally. Say, man, I was talking to a guy today, man, yesterday. He's like, look, I've never been through retirement. We got more money than, we got enough money, I know, but still it's nerve-wracking. When you start decumulating, you're not trying to get the upside, for heaven's sake. We're trying to make sure that you don't get killed and you can put your head on the pillow at night. It's just that simple. So it's kind of like, all right, you're going to sacrifice some upside for the comfort of knowing you won't get killed on the down. Well, we don't know. I mean, I ain't think of that. But generally speaking, you're not going to get killed on the down. And there's something very valuable for there. So for me, I'm not touching this with a 10-foot pole. I'm 50 years old. Amar's not touching with a 10-foot pole. If I'm about to retire, I might think about something like this for sure.
Why don't we hop into the next one? Why don't you go over that one?
All right, yeah, I'm going to share my screen on that, though, so that way I can
okay.
I got it up here, Amar. But you keep yours there. Well, actually, I don't do it. Do you have to do it? Let's see. I'm going to share my screen here, and I'm going to go to example 2. And these were the ones that income fix. I can't remember. The ones I used to sell were usually 18-month one, principal protection. Maybe that's the next one. I can't remember. Right. Let's go into this. These are higher than current fixed income rates, which is everyone hates current fixed income. The rates are low. The rates are going higher. So thumbs up, guys. What is the not thumbs up? Comment. An increasing interest rate does what to your bonds? All right. Put 1 if it makes the bonds go down in value. 1 if it makes the bonds go down in value, or 2 if it make the bonds go up in value. So put that in, because all that live chat stuff, Amar, just helps with the stupid algorithm. So remember, increasing interest rates, it does what for bonds? 1 makes them go down in value. 2 makes them go up in value. All right, so what we're seeing here, just if y'all could just go ahead and put that in there, just because it helps with the algorithm. Income higher than current fixed income rates, because everyone hates it. I mean, we're talking with CD. Amar, I was looking at CD for a guy yesterday for 5 years. It was like freaking 25 basis points for a certificate. Couldn't believe it. All right, so we got 3-year typical callable annually. That means if the rates change, they can take back your money and make you whole. That's what happens. S&P 500 and the Russell 2000, the lesser of the downside protection, 70% principal barrier at maturity. They're going to give you 6% paid quarterly. So let's go look at the income scenarios, quarterly observation. Neither index falls by more than 30%. Neither index falls by more than 30%. You're going to receive 1.5% every quarter. All right, so you put $100,000 in there. Neither index falls by 30%. You'll receive what's that? $6,000. Ain't too shabby. At least one index falls by more than 30% from issue date. You're not going to get anything. All right, so we know that you won't make any money if more than one index or one index falls by 30%. So as long as an index does not fall by 30%, you're going to get, in this case, 1.5% per quarter. Now, if memory serves, Amar, if it can fall, it's not quarter to quarter. I think any time in that quarter, it can fall 30% and then you don't get anything. Even if you start the quarter at 100, it fell to 60, but by the end of the quarter is back up to 80. I still think you skipped the payment. Do you know?
Well, so this is why you have to read the prospectus on all of these, because each one is different, right? So you could have somebody that has quarter to quarter lock-in, right? So it has to be on the date of the quarter. Those are good structured notes. If you have one that have a structured note that any time in that quarter, if it drops by 30%, you skip the payment, then I would say that person probably would have a bad experience with the exactly this, similar type structure note, but just one nuance there.
Well, just what happened the Q1 of last year. I mean, we had a 30%, 35% decline, but it came back up by the end of the quarter. So,
and we try, when we're using structured notes, we try to make it on the date. So on the quarter date, not any time.
The ones we used to have when I was at Legg Mason Smith Barney, it was anytime. And I remember that too, because you say, well, as long as it doesn't, because this is relatively new concept back in 2005 and 6, but anytime the market fell below a certain threshold, buddy, it's just Pablo, hey, Loudy. Anyone want a dog? All right. So principal scenarios can security call. So anytime it's a callable security, not just this, but even like a callable bond, even preferred stocks, you get your 100% principal at call date. So you start with $100,000. Later on, they call it within the year. You still get $100,000 back, and you get your money that you received if you did receive any income over that time. Neither index has fallen more than 30% over. So was it 3 years? So if neither index has fallen over 30% from year 1 to the end of year 3, not only did you get 6% income per year, but you also get all your money back at principal. Now, at least one index declines from the issue date by 30%. All right. So once you go down to that hole in the ground and you're down 30% between now and year 3, the end of year 3, the principal declines proportionately. So you will get a 30% loss. So it's not a principal guarantee. It just says, look, hey, go ahead.
No, it's not a principal guarantee. Yeah. And oftentimes some of these you end up owning the underlying holding. So I saw one that a client had from their outside account that they had a basket of securities, Apple, IBM, like Google. Just think of a bunch of securities, and based off those securities, they were driving income, right? So if it broke the barrier, then that client owned all those securities.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then you just have to, you write out the waves just like you do with the other investments. But you got to know the worst case scenario, especially in these income type structure notes.
Let's do third. This one I like the better one. You want to do? Let me bring it back up. We'll do the third example, Barn. You can do that. I like the first and the third probably more than the second one actually. I don't find this a whole lot of I'll let other people decide. But anyway, go ahead.
Yeah. So this is the third example. So in here they're trying to link it to CDs and principal protection.
Yeah.
Remember, most are principal protection and that's the insurer protecting the principal, just like if you had an annuity, right? But some also come with FDIC insurance, right? So you got to, there's a difference between those two that I would just like to highlight right here. And so like I did with the other one, let me just bring up my whiteboard.
You're drawing.
My drawing pad, if you will. So in this one, so
there's a baby.
These are the dollars that you get. And this is the S&P percentage return, right? So no dividends is just total, just the equity component return. And so there's some key time periods in this. So there's a 30%, and then there's 10%. And this is over 5 years. Okay. And then there's a payout. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Again, this is not going to be to scale, but I think you get the point. Here's your $10 payout, and then here's your $20 payout. Okay. Actually, I may change it. Look at this, Josh. I'm getting fancy. So,
man.
Over 5 years, if the S&P had a negative return, you got your principal back, right? That's this blue line right here. So you always gain your principal back. This one is not FDIC insured. This is based off of the ability of the insurer to pay. So, got to make sure that you watch the credit worthiness there. And then you have a payout like this, where if the S&P 500 over 5 years did 10%, then you got, dollar for dollar. And I'm going to pull this back up just so you can read it here. Yeah. S&P 500 goes up 10% over the 5 years, right? So we have a 5-year maturity, then you got 10%. If it goes, so from 10 to 30, you get capped at 20%, right? So this is the 20% cap. So again, if we look at real scenarios, which if I can pull up here, let's look at the first one. So if you bought this in February 24th, 2006, over 5 years, the S&P did 2.36, you got 2.36. If we look at 1 year later and it is 07, and the markets went down over 5 years, then you got zero. You just got your money back, right? So this is the key here, is that you're reducing downside exposure, right, with the first and third. So here you got $0. You earn nothing, but you got your principal back. And then the third one, which I just looked at, which the market we've had so far in the last. So if you bought this in 2016, well, you got the cap, 20%. Yeah. Right. And, just saying rough math, that's, let's say, over 5 years, that's 4%, right? Yep. CDs were not paying 4% in 2016. I know that. I mean, I was part of the, we have brokered CDs where like banks would create CDs and you can buy third-party CDs and they're not paying 4%. And Josh, you just said right now, CDs are paying a 4% for a 5 year or something. Like I'm sure you can find maybe like 1%, but so you got to take what you want. So one of the things in terms of strategy is you can find some of these products that are a 1 year maturity, right? So these numbers would be all different, but you could ladder 1 year S&P 500 structured notes with principal protection, and eventually some of those will pay. This may be the upper end, maybe 7% here, and like a 3% return, right? But that's higher than what CDs are paying now, and you're not going to lose. I mean, I guess you lose if you had $1,000 invested, was that $20 of interest potentially that you would have gotten if you had a CD versus.
Wow. Yeah. And here's a 3 year at Navy Federal. Now this is a variable, but it's paying 0.39 right now, man. 0.39. That's Navy Federal. That's not a bank. That's a credit union. That's just not going to get the job done. It's nuts. I mean, you got 6 to 24 month CDs, APY as high as 50 basis points. 3 months to 7 years, as high as 0.95. It's freaking nuts. That's a Navy Federal. I mean, so I don't know. When you start looking at what else is out there, you say, okay, now the drawback is on these things is that you might not make any money. That's a fact. But at least Navy Federal, you're making 0.39. Wow. I mean, that's on $100,000. Was that $390 a month? Mm-hmm. And I'm looking at, bear with me just a second. I look at certificates at PenFed, because PenFed is typically the better one out there of the credit unions. And they got the same thing. Our 1 to 5 year 1 to 7 year CDs as high as 0.65. talk about a tax on savers, man. It's nuts. That's just straight up ugly. So I'm not a fan of CDs in this day and age. And I like CDs, but I mean, it's like if you don't need, well, even with CDs, you don't really have access to the money. I mean, my goodness, you still got to break the bank. So I don't know. It's kind of like if you're going a CD route, why not look at something like this?
Yeah. And so maybe some quick tips with this would be like most of the time we like to have structured notes and qualified plans. And the reason is that when this pays out, depending on how it's structured, the majority of them pay out as ordinary income.
Yeah.
Right? The gain. So like you're gonna get taxed on that. And so, well, one of the things, this is misconceptions, but I think some of these are true in the fact that some people think this is too good to be true. Well, the reality, it's not. I mean, like I said, with the index annuities, they're doing the same thing, right, with your money. And they charge an M&E. Do they have an M&E fee, or what do they have? They have an administration fee.
I'm sure they got an M&E fee too, man. Absolutely.
It is kind of complicated, so you have to work with I would say it's best to work with an advisor to help you navigate some of the options. A competent advisor. It's too liquid. Yes, I mean you're going to lock up your money for a period of time, and I think the other thing to mention here is that these get marked to market on a daily basis. So when you're looking at it in your account, you're going to see it go up a lot. You're going to see it go down a lot. It's going to be all over the map. But it doesn't matter. It's on the maturity date. That is what matters for most of these structured notes. Too risky. Yeah. I think there's risk in everything, right? I read something the other day. There is a cost of doing something, and there's also a cost of doing nothing.
Yeah.
Right. And sometimes the cost of doing nothing is bigger than the cost of doing something. So, yeah. Some characteristics.
Well, there's a dividends right there, so that's good. And lack of liquidity. I mean, but the lack of liquidity is why you don't put. This is the thing with structured products. Is like we always naysayers on every. They always have a negative, and it just drives up the wall. I'm like, okay, yes, you don't have access to it. Well, you really shouldn't have access to your stocks either, frankly. I mean, what I mean by that is, if you're investing in stocks, yes, you do have access to it. If the market fell 54% from October 2007 to March 9th of 2009, yeah, it's liquid, but you'd be a fool to pull the money out. Okay, your liquidity for sure. That doesn't make any sense. The dividends, I get it. I like dividends, and I wish we all could just ride comfortably into the sunset getting dividends. But if you're going to trade something, you're going to sacrifice. If you're going to trade X for less risk, you're going to have to give up X, and that's the dividends, which the bank or whoever's issuing the. Oh, hey, do you want to show the people that list of structure that you had sent me before? Should we go over that?
I'm going to do that in a sec. Okay. So let me just run through this here real quick. So you have to ask questions, number one. What Josh and I were doing today is hopefully providing educational-based material. We're not making any recommendations, right? So this is purely educational. You got to figure out the risk, figure out how those risks affect you, et cetera, et cetera. But here are some questions to ask. Key takeaways, again, structured products are linked to marketable securities. So that's how they're getting the yield. It's that option piece. These are customizable, right? Like you can, and the things that we do is that we go to Fidelity and say, we want to get this type of exposure. Yeah. What type of structured note can you create? And so if you're buying off the rack type of a structured note, it may not be right for you, or it may be right for you. You just have to make sure you do your due diligence. And I think that's the last part here. So
GameStop is up 86%, Amar. I know you leveraged your house to buy some GameStop, didn't you?
All right.
You have a thing for you got a table for that.
I'm going to pull it up here in a sec. So,
hey, so while Amar's pulling that up, what's thoughts, questions, comments on that, guys? Because I get this a lot. The point is there's so many, and Amar's going to show us some of the the variabilities in these products. It's impossible to know the best. I actually like what Amar was saying. The shorter time, 1 year to 18 months, I like. Anytime you do it short means there's inherently less upside. That's just a fact. But I like it short just because anytime it's when you have more moving parts, is more likely for a part to break, and as such, the quicker you can get access to your money, the better. Which means you won't make as much on the up. We're not trying to make money on the up. If we're trying to make money, the stock market is your only bet, in my opinion. That's all there is to it. Without gambling, and the stock market's not gambling. If we're trying to make money to increase our portfolio, our net wealth, then you should just be naked in the stock market. But if we're trying to protect what you've accumulated because you can't afford a 54% decline, well, there's other products for that. We got to change our mindset from accumulation to decumulation. Oh, here we go. Got it. Cool.
So this is going with the Axios theme. So these are their offerings through different banks that are insuring right now. So again, these are the growth type notes with the downside buffer. And then you can see there's Goldman Sachs, there's Morgan Stanley, Barclays, HSBC.
Pick out, it's hard to kind of see on the thing. Just read off one, Amar. It's give us, like, look at one of those Goldman Sachs ones. I don't know. It doesn't matter. Like, what does it say for? I can't even read it here from here. So,
okay. So if I click on this, does it open up?
Oh yeah, there you go. Yeah, sweet.
Let's see.
Oh, here you go. Yeah, sweet. There you go. Good.
So this is kind of like their prospectus. This is their regulatory filing. So this is the thing you should read. It's 26 pages, but the first couple pages provide you a kind of like a big picture, like a summary, if you will. So on this one, so it looks like it's buffering the downside. So actually, I'm just gonna, instead of reading through this, just for time's sake.
Yeah, right.
Here it says you get 100% return of the S&P 500 and NASDAQ up to the max return of 25%. And then it has some downside protection. So that's that one. But it's kind of hard. You have to read through these. That's why I'm not the best. Or how about like a CD, right? Like a CD. This is a 6-year CD, and it's based off the volatility index, which is. But since this is offered by a bank, it is FDIC insured.
What I'm saying. So the issue that we have here is that there's so many of them. It's impossible to say are structured notes good or bad. It's completely, it's just silly. It's silly to say that our structured notes good or bad. It's kind of like Dave Ramsey. Annuities are not Dave Ramsey. And maybe it is Dave Ramsey. Who's the other? Ken Fisher.
Annuities are bad.
That's such a stupid thing to say. Anyway, it's just
products serve a purpose. You have to make sure that the purpose is aligned with your purpose.
Exactly.
Not that somebody selling you a product. It's just that there's alignment there. I like this. This question, JD Thompson, right there. It says, yes, these are different than variable annuities. The main thing with variable annuities is that you're taking the underlying risk, right? So if the investments go up a lot, you're going to participate in that. With most of these, they have a cap on the upside, right? But then when investments go down, you're going to feel 100% of that with a variable annuity. Whereas here, there is, some buffering, if you will, on the downside. Now, most variable annuities are not sold as just variable annuities. They have riders associated with them. So the biggest difference that I would say with variable annuities and what we're displaying here is that the internal fees within a variable annuity will be close to about, I would say 2% on average, or I would say a really cheap variable annuity would be 1.5 to 1.75. average annuity, variable annuity would be around 2%. And then on the most expensive with all the riders and all the bells and whistles, you could be up to 3%.
Oh, I've seen 3.85. Absolutely.
Yeah. And so here there are no riders, right? And so it's basically, if these are the outcomes, this is what happens in each one of those outcomes. And if you're comfortable with that, then that's, you're not paying for guaranteed income. You're not paying for a death benefit or anything else like that.
Well, also, variable annuities really are supposed to be long-term contracts. I mean, that's the point. These things really need to be looked at short-term, Jill. A variable annuity, you're saying, look, I'm willing to be in the long term in order to later annuitize that contract to get a monthly income that I theoretically could not get elsewhere unless I had the annuity. So because it's a long-term contract, really needs to be looked at the 10 to 20 years because you're paying for fees over that long term. And the fees don't go away if the market drops either. That's what drives me up the wall about variable annuities. Well, these things really need to be short term. I would just say, look, this way, going back to my first book, I did a chapter on borrowing from your 401k in which to finance a car. And so you don't have to finance a car. And my premise is, and this is what I did. I said, man, I got a feeling the market is going to take a dive. I'm going to get out. And I'm going to take the proceeds via a loan from my 401k and go buy this car that we needed. And I'm going to pay it back with dollar cost averaging. My theory was that the market would crash. And then I took it out the top, no taxes, bought my vehicle, which I needed, and paid it back dollar cost averaging while the market was low. Actually, didn't work out like that, but that was my anticipation. I said, I just feel like the market is too high for whatever reason. I think it was 2011, 2013, maybe. But if that's you, but I wasn't retired there. You see what I'm saying? I didn't just hang up my boots and go on to the great wonder of what the hell happens next in retirement. That wasn't me. So even though that was proven not to be the best move, it still worked out. But for someone who just retired and they just want a kind of short-term reprieve without leaving everything in cash for a couple of years, this works good. Variable annuity won't get that done. The last thing on the variable annuity real quick is you're paying, this freaking infuriates me. You're paying for a death benefit when you're most likely not going to ever use a death benefit. And the death benefit, the M&E, as Amar was talking about, can range from 25 to 75 basis points every year. And it's on the cash value. It's not on the actual death benefit itself. It's insane. It's the most insane expense that there is ever known to man. It's even worse than freaking Sniffy Joe's 10% for the big guy he gets. It's nuts. And I hate the freaking fees on variable annuities because a lot of them are never used. Here, what you see is what you get, as long as you know what you're getting. Jill, you put in $100,000. We either know you're going to get 120 out or you're going to get 100 in 5 years. I mean, I'm just using that for simplicity. You put $100,000. You're either going to get 120,000 at the end of 5 years, or you're going to get your principal. One of those two things. Okay, that's it. So I like these way better than variable annuities, as you can probably tell.
So there was a question. We don't know
riders you recommend. So James, you talk about for variable annuities. You want to go into this a little bit there, Amar? I'm not sure. I think there are no riders on these things, right? On structured notes.
Yeah, and structured notes don't have riders. Yeah. Right. But so one of the questions somewhere in there that I saw was, would you own this in a taxable pre-tax Roth account from a tax perspective? And again, for most of the clients, we're not putting 100% of a client's money into structured notes, right? This is 10, 20% on the high side. So a majority of these are done in IRA accounts. And the reason is that most of these pay ordinary income when they distribute. And so, you want to get favorable tax advantage stuff. You're already paying ordinary income on distributions on your IRA anyways, so it's not a disadvantage. In terms of assets that you want, now everybody has a different opinion on what you should own on taxable versus pre-tax versus Roth. Our perspective is that you want your growth investments in your Roth IRAs or your Roth 401ks because that's where you want the most growth.
Yeah.
You want your buy and hold type securities in your taxable account, so you get long-term capital gains. And then you want any high transaction or bond type where they pay ordinary income type investments in your IRA. I think that's a good framework to work from.
Absolutely, 100%. What I saw riders. So, Mar, just explain to Jeremy. He's from Maine, so he's not that bright. Explain to him what a rider is, if you would.
Yeah. So, annuity contracts typically will have added benefits, which they call riders, that you can add on to your policy. So, typically, a rider will give you a benefit that you can use during your lifetime or at death that gives you an extra dollar amount that you wouldn't be able to get by yourself, or takes some of the risk off the table, right? So a popular one over the last, 10 years has been a guaranteed income withdrawal benefit rider, which basically is taking money out of your account. Well, it's actually a little bit more complicated. There's a phantom account and then there's your actual account.
Yes, exactly.
And they're taking money out of your actual account based off of your phantom account value, right? And so it is one of those things that you have to kind of really look into and understand the fees and expenses. And one of the things that concerns me about all these riders that people do end up buying is that some of them don't even use them.
Most, I'm saying most don't.
So,
I mean, it's
you'd be better off owning the underlying securities, stocks, bonds, mutual funds, index funds, whatever it may be.
So let me give you an example of that. It'd probably be better if I had a whiteboard, but you bought a variable annuity in 2007 for $100,000. All right. What happens is you're buying a death benefit that says no matter what happens, Jeremy, when you die, your wife will get no less than $100,000, if that makes sense. All right, so you fast forward until 10 years, and now your account's worth, we'll say 200, just for simplicity. A lot of times the riders will keep your death benefit following suit. They'll say, okay, now your death benefit's $200,000. So if you die, your wife will get no less than $200,000. But you're like, but I already have an account that's worth $200,000. Doesn't matter. You're going to get your wife is going to get the cash value, but you're still paying for essentially a $200,000 life insurance, even though it's not even there. So now let's say the market falls 30%. So now your account is worth $140 as opposed to $200,000. It's crazy. So you have a $200,000 account, death benefit, but the account is now worth $140. So then you jump off a bridge because you can't take it anymore. So your wife gets $200,000. All right. So she got $200,000. Your account was worth $140. So she's only getting $60,000 of life insurance. So for all that time, you've been paying 25 to 50 basis points, 1/4, 1/2, sometimes 75 basis points, 3/4% for basically essentially a $60,000 life insurance policy, which the vast majority of the time we'll never use. It's the freaking nuts, man. And it just infuriates me. Now, with that said, variable annuity contracts, Jill, who asked, they do pay the dividends. So we know for variable annuities that the underlying holdings will pay dividends. That is a fact. So that's one of the benefits of variable annuities. They're few and far between, though. Kim says, is a rider like hurricane insurance against the principal? Hurricane insurance against the principal? Yes, it's like an addition. It's just an add-on, Kim, for an expenses. I would say it's more like when you're buying a car. For an extra $5 a month, we can give you tires. For an extra $8 a month, we can give you exactly. Yeah. Right. So what's happened? So Jeremy has a $50,000 life insurance through the Army Guard. That's SGLI, and once he separates from service, it'd be called VGLI. Hopefully you read my book, Jeremy, on VGLI versus SGLI. Veterans Group Life Insurance is not a cheap proposition by any stretch. So again, James, there are no riders and structured notes. One of the benefits there aren't any. I mean, it's literally what you see is what you get. That's fact. I actually don't like the structured notes that are in a basket of dollars in terms of currencies and stuff like that. That's where it gets too complex for me. If it's on the S&P 500 or the EFA which is the developed market, I'm fine with that. But if it's on baskets of currencies, we had some guy was selling. Amar's like on 3 different baskets of currency, plus emerging markets, plus the 10-year treasury. I was like, this is insane. I mean, just keep it simple, stupid, man. Lynn says, I asked too many questions and my advisor quit. Can't blame him, but I agreed to switch to ICM ETFs at 1.4%. As my ex-husband's for 15 years in American funds, should I have kept it there? I don't know, Ken or Lynn. I'm not sure. That's a good question. I like American funds, so my first inclination is maybe, but water on the bridge now. Nothing to do about it, so I wouldn't worry. But now you're banned because you asked too many questions. That's Lynn's first question. I won't even pose that to Amar just because that's a little bit too looking like we're coming as giving advice, and Amar, we got to be careful there.
For educational purposes only.
I have not linked in the description. Oh, for my book. Yeah, just go on Amazon, brother. Amazon. Okay, here we go. So Quincy wants me to ask you, Amar, because you are threatening, whether he would leave money in the TSP or roll it over into an IRA. Quincy has heard that TSP is more secure against creditors. Any thoughts on that? No, don't answer as if what you would do, but just more. Let's get to the underlying question of
so the underlying question is
exactly
should I leave money in a TSP or roll it over to an IRA? And it's not a simple question because it depends on your investment option. In the TSP, you have the life cycle funds, and then you have the guaranteed fund, income fund, stock fund. So you're limited in investment options. But the benefit is that it's super cheap. I think it's like 4 basis points or 3 basis points. The guaranteed fund, it's buying long-term treasuries, but you don't get any of the downside exposure there when rates go up like they have. The one thing, and maybe Josh, you can help me with this, is that in the TSP, if you have a non-stock,
Maddie was just on. Maddie's on the live stream. Huh? There's my daughter. She's back from Georgia Tech. Rambling Wreck from Georgia Tech. She just waved.
In the TSP, if your beneficiaries is a non-spousal beneficiary, it's immediate payout, right? And with the Secure Act, if you have a non-spousal beneficiary, most of the time they're getting a 10-year distribution time. So that is one of the biggest, I would say, reasons why people consider moving it into an IRA. The second being investment options. Although most of the time those investment options will be more expensive.
They didn't. They modernized the TSP in 2017. I think Trumpster signed the bill. It didn't modernize that much, frankly. It actually ticks me off because those. So what happens when you die? It goes to BPA, beneficiary participant account for your surviving spouse, and then when she dies, there's just a lot of issues going on there. I frankly, it's insane. However, be careful rolling out your TSP. 100%. My man Chris Barfield at Barfield Financial, which everyone who has any exposure to TSP needs to go to. Chris Barfield at barfieldfinancial.com. He writes about this all the time. And there's I can't remember what it was, but he says, look, if you're going to roll the majority out of the TSP used to have a competitive advantage that they're so doggone cheap. Those days are gone, man. The competitive advantage of TSP is no more. Because you can buy the index funds at Vanguard, Schwab, all over the place are basically at cost. So there's no competitive advantage. The restrictions on distributions are insanely stupid, and it sucks. And so as such, my inclination is, yes, you should roll it out. However, you've got to understand what you could be leaving behind if you roll the whole thing over. So I would highly tell people to go to Chris Barfield's website at Barfield Financial. It's if you don't and you roll it out, you could be making a critical mistake. Off the top of my head, I can't remember exactly what the mistake was, but it's bad. In terms of security, the IRAs are secure. Now, what happens is the inherited IRAs are not against creditors. So IRAs are absolutely secure. I mean, it's up to states. So people say, but the state of Wyoming might be less than the state of Pennsylvania. Whatever. They're all secure. When you die and leave it to your kiddos, The inherited IRA, beneficiary IRA, is no longer void of lawsuits, as witnessed by in a 2014 unanimous Supreme Court ruling from Clarence Thomas, the good guy, versus Sonia Sotomayor, the bad guy. They all agreed unanimously that beneficiary IRAs are not exempt from lawsuits. As such, you got to keep that in mind. Josh, where can I look to figure out if contributing to my non-matching TSP is a good or a bad idea? I did not change the new blended retirement system. I think it's just fine out. And Quincy says, thanks, Amar. Hey, what about me, man? Hey, so I'm just going to tell you right now, Jeremy, look, I'm just telling you, the deferrals are way more used than they should be. Deferrals, I mean, I'm getting a tax deduction on the front end for tax deferrals until I pull the money out. I work with people every single day who've got decent figures in their IRA deferred money and are going to get hammered tax wise because they have not done any planning because they drank the Kool-Aid of defer on all costs, defer. In fact, I was talking to a lady today. Her and her husband, thankfully, had watched enough of my videos that she switched over. So basically she's working, making $30,000 a year just for the health insurance. Husband's retired, and basically they're in they don't pay an income tax. And she was initially doing 401k, 403b contributions into basically 50% of her income into her deferred 403b, and they were living off their cash until she got some Social Security. And I said, dude, that's nuts. You're literally not deferring anything because you're in a no tax. You have no taxes as it is. Turns out her husband said, no, we put that to the Roth. I said, thank the good Lord. So basically what's happening here is don't get too caught up in the deferrals. They ain't all that in a bag of chips, man. I'm just telling you right now, you've got to look at your situation. Remember where your tax bracket is today versus where it'll be in the future. And if you think it's going to be the future lower than what it is today, I'd want to know why you think that. Always think your tax bracket is going to be higher. Hey, right on, Quincy. Quincy said, thanks, Josh. Dan's up in New Hampshire. Right on. Jeremy says he's using the Roth version. Right on. James, I like the structured note. I agree 100%. I think having structured notes as part of your portfolio makes sense. I really, really do. When people email me with a 28-page prospectus and say, can you look at this? Tell me this is a good one. There's no way I can do that. And I get that probably a couple times a month. Yeah, this is one. And there's no way I can look that over. Are 401ks exempt from lawsuits as are IRAs? These are all under ERISA, JD. So the answer is yes, absolutely. ERISA plans are more stringent from IRAs in terms of being free from crazy, what we call creditors and predators, because there are a lot of creditors and predators out there. Gary says he agrees with me as well. He should, Amar. If only I could get that daggone Amar to agree with me. RMDs are now at 72, and I think they'll probably be changing till 75 here shortly, it sounds like. But yes, your RMDs are affected if you start taking distributions. All right, so Amar, don't answer this question. All right, so I'm going to put another thing in here for the people who are comments. Gary says, are your RMDs affected at 72 if you start taking distributions at 66? So the answer is yes. How are they affected? That makes your RMD go down as 1, go up as 2, or go sideways is 3. All right. So assuming we live in a vacuum, if you pull money out of your 401k, your deferred accounts now at 66, what does that do to your RMD when you hit 72? It makes it go down, up, or sideways. My cubby has offered us the Roth 401k this year. Right on, Claudia. Hey, Claudia's new to the program. Appreciate you being here. All right. Harry, can people follow directions? Harry, I said 1 for down, 2 for up, and 3 for sideways. I'm like an elementary school teacher here, Mar. Anything. All right, so Mar, how much if someone wants to talk to you about this, and we put the stuff in the notes, but what do you do if people are interested in this? And again, I do not want to sound like this is a sales pitch. It is not. However, these could be a good thing for some of you all out there. And there are many people out there who are selling these things that they shouldn't be selling these things. but Pablo, it's just me. Every time I bang on the table. Thank you, Harry. Thank you. All right. So Amar, what would you suggest if people want to get a hold of you to go over this? What any thoughts or comments on that by chance?
Yeah, you can just reach out. Our website is clientfirstcap.com, and
clientfirstcap.com.
And then we have Client First Capital Learning is our YouTube channel.
How many subscribers you got now, the big guy?
I think it's 260. Subscribe if you haven't already subscribed.
Pablo, I love that dog, but man, he's got the loudest bark ever. All right, so clientfirstcap.com, I didn't do it on there, and then Client First Learning. Client First Learning,
Client First Capital Learning channel, and is our YouTube channel, and then it's Client First CAP.com.
So do me a favor, folks. Subscribe to Amar's YouTube channel if you haven't yet. And the reason being is because we want him to get some of that sweet George Soros money from the videos. So once he gets 1,000 subscribers, he can get start making that sweet money too. What's your thoughts on this, Amar? If you can see that question, do you see it?
Yeah, I would say structured notes are geared towards reducing for people to take on more risk, but reducing exposure, right? So like really, as you get more conservative as an investor, right, moderate to conservative, structured notes become more attractive. Typically, people that are geared towards retirement are starting to become more conservative because they want those dollars to be there to recreate income. So I would agree with that comment.
And also too, Jeremy, you don't want to put your whole portfolio into a structured note for sure. So if you're not retiring, ideally you're still in accumulation phase. In that case, I'd be hesitant to recommend these for accumulators. Let's put it that way. There need to be a real serious reason for that. Lovely day to look out the windows. Let's take a look. Please spell Amar's YouTube channel name. It's just Client
First Capital Learning.
That's it. Yeah. 10 cents for Las Vegas. Where the market's getting pummeled. All right, folks. Amar, you got anything else you want to talk about here?
No, but we should wrap it up because we gotta get going. I gotta get going.
Right on, man. Appreciate y'all being here. So next week we'll do it back on Wednesday, right, Amar?
Yep.
Amar's his mom had COVID. Or wait, she had COVID, or
she got the COVID vaccine.
Vaccine. Is she doing okay?
Yep.
Okay, gotcha. All right, I thought you said she had it. I was like, that's not good, but she's doing okay. Okay, cool. So we had to post this one till Thursday, but next week we'll be back on Wednesday. Off the top of your head, do you remember what the topic is? I don't, by chance. And, by the way, guys, if you all have topics, maybe I'll put that, Amar. Maybe I'll put that as a. We still want to do the wealth.
I'm sure you can do a poll. Like I've seen on YouTube, people have polls. Yeah. So maybe we can do that because we want to mix relevant trending topics that are now, as well as the 13 wealth management concerns.
Yeah, or whatever people is interested in too. So I mean, we're not just ideally. Amar and I will be doing this every week. I mean, you see what I'm saying? I mean, that would be fun because that way we can have just Q&A the whole time. But there are 13 things we'd like to talk about. But if you all have topics, okay. Well, last question here. Can you take money out before retiring? Yeah, but absolutely, James. It's not contingent on retiring at all. It's just contingent on the time frame of the structured note that you're taking. Secondly, you got to be careful, like Amar was talking about too, the tax consequence. It is taxed as ordinary income mostly, not all the time, but mostly. So you just got to be careful in that.
All right, Josh.
All right, thanks, guys.
All right, thanks. Bye.
I'll stay on. Hey, all right. So I'll stay on if you guys. I guess we got. It's not. What time is it right now? 1:43. All right. So let's talk. But just while we got you, markets are down 407. Now I got someone. Let me. Wow, that's loud. All right. So I was going to stay on here, but There's someone out there blowing the leaves, so I think I'll get off. Just remember, guys, the markets are down 407. The Dow is still 31,548, man. 31,548. So, I mean, we're still way up from where we were just a few weeks ago. So no reason to panic. And last, I do want to talk about somebody pointed about the 10-year Treasury. Yes, the 10-year Treasury is at 1.5. I mean, if you just look at this right here, you'll see this is a 2-year time frame. So you see the 10-year Treasury is just back where it was a year ago. That's it. So the 10-year Treasury being where it's at isn't, I mean, yes, it's high. It's gone up fast, but that's just because of this insanity of Fauci. Apparently Fauci's telling us to freaking keep our masks on. He can kiss my big fat behind. I cannot stand that guy. Man, I'd love to see Fauci get fired. I'm sick of that guy. He caused Trump the election. I'm just telling you right now, it's Fauci. Trump fell for it. Still drives up the wall. All right, my friends, we'll see you on the other end. Appreciate y'all being here. Night, guys.